Hello everyone, welcome to Glass Half Dead, and just as I laid out everything to talk to you about the Kill Team Nova Open tournament, the first tournament for Kill Team in the world, I realised that this is a crazy way to try and talk to you about it. Let's go to the computer screen. Okay, so I'm not going to go over every single line here, but I have bought tickets to go to Warhammer World, which I'm assuming is going to use the same mission pack as the Nova rules. I mean, you know, it was advertised on the Warhammer community site that Nova was the first one, and also, oh hey, look, we're doing one in Warhammer World as well. So, and then the Warhammer World one didn't have its own rule set, so I'm guessing they're going to be the same. So, there are a few things worthy of note here. Really cool, first off, is that if you heard my small rant in the last one, or pleading, whatever you want to call it, about I want tournaments to use the command roster, well, Nova's going to use it. I think they've got a cool way of doing it. You've got 5 minutes to select your data cards, and boom, that's it. Cool, that's good. And then there's also a way of, if your opponent has not, picked within 5 minutes, this is how you get out of that situation. Fine, boring. So there's a little bit of an interesting one here, which is that models cannot be set up above ground level or climb any terrain with a height greater than 2 inches for any reason. I'm reading that as you can't go onto a second floor. That's really weird. I don't know why they've done that. I'm going to have to guess that's some sort of, the Nova Open guys thought about how much terrain they can set up, and we can't get enough to make it equal for all sides, so we're just only going to do one level of terrain? Don't know, really weird. However, for anybody out there thinking of setting up their own kill team, it does instantly mean that a few things, like, the Reaver's grapnel launcher, irrelevant. Also, fly, not as useful. Still incredibly powerful, but not as useful. I suppose one possible reason is they didn't want to have to deal with the advanced rules of falling, that sort of thing. Don't know. It does obviously make the game a lot easier, a little bit more simpler. Simpler? Great. A little bit more simple. Who knows though. And then it gives a little note on terrain features, which is really just letting you know that all of the maps in this have been set up to be equal. That's the wrong word. Symmetrical. There you go. So there shouldn't be any benefit to being on either side of the board, which I think is a really good idea, obviously. And then such a thing as secondary objectives exist. Again, I'm not going to go over all of them, but they are things like, at the end of the shooting phase, score 1 victory point if one or more readied models from your kill team made an attack that took an enemy model out of action in that phase. So basically, kill a guy with shooting. That's easy enough. But there are also weirder ones, like cut off the head. So when the enemy leader is taken out of action, score victory points equal to 5 minus the number of the current battle round. So that suddenly makes protecting your leader very, very important, potentially. And then things like recon sweep. At the end of the battle round, score 1 victory point if one or more models from your kill team, other than shaken models, are wholly within the enemy deployment zone. That's pretty easy to get, isn't it? You just need one model in the enemy deployment zone. But, as I understand it, that can be scored every single turn. So you have a potential to get 3 victory points a turn from your secondary objectives. Is that right? I'm doubting myself now. Let's read. Oh yes, okay. So the other thing here is there is no scouting phase. Scouting phase doesn't happen. To be honest, that's probably competitively a good idea. But it removes another small little bit of that meta game, which is a bit of a shame. But fair enough. And then the victory points for every single map are the same, which is there's going to be objective markers. And at the end of each battle round, so each turn, a player scores 1 victory point for each of the following conditions that they satisfy. So you can only ever get a maximum of 3 victory points. And that is, you control 1 objective marker, or you control 2 objective markers, or you control, well, more objective markers than your opponent, which just means 3 plus. So there's no advantage to holding all 5 of the objectives, basically. That's the same as holding 3, because each map only has 5 objectives. Again, that in itself is interesting, so you can plan this out thinking, okay, I know that I am going to need 3 ways to hold objectives. So I need 3 teams, teams of guys in my games. Maybe one's going to be your melee, one's going to be your range, one's going to be your snipers, something like that. Just to make sure that you have the ability to split them up and send them to the objectives you want, so that you can score the maximum amount of victory points. Okay, so back to the secondary objectives. Sorry, I completely blanked on that. So yeah, you can score, so for each secondary objective you have, you can score each of them 3 times. So you'll get a maximum of, how many are you meant to take? Is it 2 or 3? Yes, okay. So it is possible to win the game potentially by only getting your secondary objectives. If you score a secondary or all 3 of your secondary objectives every turn, or well, 3 turns, so you're getting your maximum of 9 victory points from your secondaries. As long as the enemy isn't completely dominating you on primaries, you should actually be safe. Oh, also, secondary objectives are hidden from your opponent, so they don't know what you're getting until you score it for the first time. Then you have to declare it. The other thing is here, each mission is only allowing certain secondary objectives, because otherwise I think the secondary objectives would be really, really easy to pick. You'd get the one where you need to kill someone with shooting, the one where you need to kill someone with melee, and the one where you, want to kill their leader. And that's it for the missions. Again, I'm not going over all of them. They're all symmetrical. They're all slightly different. It's a competitive tournament, so completely unsurprisingly, you have to bring all of your data cards for your command roster. Although it should be noted, you don't have to have a full command roster. If you feel you have the perfect kill team, just take that. Just take the 100 points. That's fine. Very unsurprisingly, your models do have to be WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. They can be converted, but they do still have to accurately represent what the model is using for war gear. Equally, if your model gets damaged on the way there and you don't have a means to repair it, you can get disqualified. So watch out for that. Bring glue, I guess. And the final note, which is the one that actually I find really concerning, are about tactics. Everything else up until this point I've been pretty okay with, whatever. However, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it. Players can use any of the tactics available to their kill team from the kill team core manual. To do so, they must bring the relevant tactic card or the core manual to the tournament and must allow their opponent to read the tactic if they ask to. A player cannot use tactics from other kill team publications and cannot use a tactic that they have not brought or cannot show to an opponent. Okay, that's interesting. You may have listened to my how to build a kill team or kill team orcs videos, and in both of them I say that the Krogskull's Boys is great. You should definitely buy it. Part of the reason I say that is because you get the tactics cards and they have great tactics. And I know that I've definitely heard that the same about the Imperium. Your Scions, you get some really good tactics cards in there. And it seems like in each of these faction expansion packs, you get cards that make your faction. They make it work. And now we're hearing you can't use them. Ah man, that's really problematic for me. Why are they publishing rules we're not allowed to use? That's crazy, right? I mean, who does that make sense to? So, benefit of the doubt here, okay? Benefit of the doubt. Maybe the reason for that is because it means that Space Marines, Orcs, Imperials, Imperial Guard, and Tyranids would all have a crazy advantage over everybody else because they already have their army making tactics out, and so those four would, without a doubt, be the strongest. Well, Harlequins too, probably, but let's forget that. Maybe they have done it that way until every faction, or at least more factions, have their faction expansion boxes released. I can get behind that. I'm totally okay with that as a concept. Let's keep that up. However, there is nothing to indicate that that is the case. That's me hoping and praying. If that turns out to be the case, and they're just waiting for the other expansions, okay, that's fine. No issues. However, for me personally, if tournaments are going to continue not allowing tactics from outside of the core starter rulebook, I'm not going to buy any of the faction expansions. Because what you get in those is incredibly useful. And it's cool, and I like it, and I think they're great. And I want to play against other people that are using their crazy, command point based tactics. I want everyone to have those, even in a competitive environment. So I really hope this is a stopgap measure, but who knows. Okay, cool. That's the Nova Open rules. I am thinking of taking Orcs, Tau, or Necrons. Those are my three options. What do you guys think? What should I take? Currently leaning towards Necrons the most because I know I can get them painted before the end of September. Okay, glass half dead out. Enjoy.